Today, I'm going to talk through the proposed SEND reforms and what they could mean for families. Just to be really clear from the start, these are proposals only and nothing is final. I'm here from the Wiltshire Parent Carer Council, and our role is to make sure parent carer voices are at the centre of our response to these proposals. Everything we're sharing today is based on what we've reviewed so far and what it could mean for families locally. We aim to highlight the key proposed reforms in this presentation. We recognise that we can't cover everything. We hope this gives you a clearer understanding and helps you feel more informed. The full document is available online. It is lengthy and complex, but we aim to make it easier to understand. We know that many families are experiencing delays and barriers when trying to access support, and they often feel they're having to fight to get what their child needs. A key aim of these proposals is to try and change that, so children can get support earlier before things reach crisis point. Overall, the intention is to create a more inclusive system that's also simpler to navigate. EHCPs are not being removed. They are still expected to remain in place for children with the most complex needs. What has been proposed is that EHCPs will be issued to those with complex needs, but at the moment we don't know how exactly complex needs will be defined. So families will need clear definitions and transparent thresholds. The government has said that no change to support delivered through ECHPs will happen before at least September 2030. However, it's our understanding that around that time, changes will start to happen in key transition points, like moving away from primary to secondary school and from secondary into post-education. There is ongoing discussions about how the system may develop in the future, but right now, nothing has changed in the law. One of the key proposals is something called an individual support plan, or ISPs. These would be led by schools, created with parents, and focus on everyday support in schools. Importantly, a diagnosis wouldn't be needed before support is put in place. We understand there would be a legal expectation for schools to deliver, create, maintain, and review what's in an ISP, although this may not be the same level of legal protection as an EHCP. There is also a proposal for a complaints process, starting with the school and, if needed, moving to an independent panel if the ISP isn't being followed. The proposals set out different levels of support within schools. Universal support would be available to all learners. This includes trained staff, reasonable adjustments, and support without needing an assessment or diagnosis. Target support would be for children with ongoing needs that can't be met through the universal offer. These would usually be funded by the school or trust as outlined in an ISP. Targeted Support Plus would bring in a more specialist input, including support-based funding by the local authority. The expert at hand role would be really important here. Children at this level would also have an ISP and access to an inclusion base if needed. And finally, specialist support, where specialist bases combine access to the mainstream curriculum adapted where needed with more tailored teaching and support. The government's SEND reform proposal introduced something called the expert at hand model. The idea is simple but potentially powerful, making specialist support available in schools when it's needed, rather than relying on lengthy processes to help access help. What the proposal suggests is a shift towards an earlier, more accessible support. Schools will be able to draw on more specialists directly, including educational psychologists and speech and language therapists, supported by increased national funding and workforce development. In practice, this could look quite different for children and families. A teacher might be able to get advice quick on how to support a child in a classroom. A specialist might visit the school and provide guidance without long delays. Support could be faster, more flexible, and happen earlier before needs escalate. There are some clear opportunities here: early intervention, better support for teachers, and the potential to make mainstream education more inclusive, with expertise built into everyday settings. But there are also important questions. Much of the focus so far seems to be on increasing capacity in areas like educational psychologists and speech and language therapy. That's important, but SEN is broader than that, and truly effective system will need a wider range of expertise. And perhaps more importantly, we should be asking, where do parent carers fit into this model? Because alongside professional expertise, families bring deep knowledge of their child. If the reform is going to work well, that expertise needs to be recognised and built into how support is designed. So while the expert hand is promising direction, its successes will depend on how well it brings together specialist schools, families, and deliver support that is not just earlier but genuinely joined up and meaningful. The government's plans to update the SEN codes of practice and introduce new areas of development to guide educators. A full revision would need to follow any legal change. There are also proposals around specialist provision packages forming the basis of the future ECHPs. Changes to ensure staff like SENCOs have the right training and required schools to work together and pull together with their resource. It's really important that the core legislation, like the Children and Families Act and the SEN Code of Practice, is applied consistently and that children's rights are not weakened. Duties under the Equality Act must remain central. Reasonable adjustment should never depend on diagnosis or funding pressures. There are proposals for stronger independent mediation, but also consideration of limiting SEN tribunal powers, for example, around naming Pacific schools. There may also be more emphasis on the value to money and situations where a school doesn't have to be named if it's already full. Many families currently rely on tribunals to secure the support of their children's needs, so any reduction in tribunal powers could leave children in unsuitable placements without a clear way to challenge decisions. A big theme running through these proposals is earlier support. The idea is to make sure children get help sooner rather than waiting until things reach a crisis point. There's strong focus on early years, supported by the expert at hand role and the Best Start family hubs. The government has committed significant funding to these hubs, and each one will include a dedicated SEN professional. The aim is for early years providers to work closely with them to identify needs early and respond quickly. There's also a proposal for a fast-track route working alongside the NHS to provide specialist support and EHCPs for children under 5 with the most complex needs. This is about making sure support is put in place as early as possible and at the right time. Under the proposals, there will be improved transitional planning, new post-16 pathways, and more visibility of disability within the curriculum. Transitions need to start early and involve all relevant services. Post-16 options should value academic, vocational, and life skills equally, and support should continue beyond education so young people don't become isolated after leaving school. Another key theme is services working more closely together. This means education, health, and care being more joined up, so families don't have to keep repeating their story. The expert at hand role is expected to support this role also, in addition, particularly during key transitional times. We're hearing understandable concerns, especially about whether fewer children might receive EHCPs in the future and whether ICPs will offer the same level of protection and support. At the same time, we're also hearing some positive responses, with people recognising potential opportunities within the proposals. On this screen, you can see a few of the themes that have come up over conversations in the past couple of weeks. The slide in front of you now talks about some of the opportunities that we've seen from this proposal. Overall, families do need clear protections and not just reassurances. There's still a lot we don't know, and trust will depend on strong accountability, proper resourcing, clear legal safeguarding, and a workforce that can deliver these changes. We hope to see children and young people being meaningfully involved in decisions about their support. It's really important to remember that nothing has changed in law yet. All current rights and protections, including EHCPs, remain in place. This is still at the consultation stage. There has been a clear timeline set out for planning and execution of these reforms. At the moment, we don't expect to see any changes until around 2029-2030 mark. There are 39 consultation questions, but you don't need to answer all of them. Just focus on the ones that feel relevant to your experience. You can use the Mentimeter QR code, which you will see on the next page, to share your views. Every response really does count. We'll use what you share to shape our Wiltshire response, making sure your voices are at the centre. And this isn't the end of the conversations. We'll keep working with partnerships with the local authority to make sure families' experiences continue to shape what happens next. Thank you so much for taking the time to be here and listen today. We really appreciate it. We hope this has helped bring the proposed reforms to life and made them a little clearer. We know the full document is detailed and complex, so we focused on the key points to support your understanding. If you'd like to explore further, the full document is available online. But most importantly, your voice matters. This is a real opportunity to influence what happens next for children, young people, and their families. Please take a moment to scan the QR code to access the Department of Education's consultation questions. You can submit your response via our Mentimeter account, where we'll be gathering everyone's views together. You can answer as many or as few questions as you like. Every response counts. We'll then bring all your feedback together into a collective response, which we'll share after the submission deadline on the 18th of May 2026. Thank you again for being part of this.